during his first term, promising to put his presidency on the line to fight the Galamsey menace. Then it was Operation Vanguard. Now it is Operation Halt. In fact, we have now Operation Halt 2. The latter is considered to have had some good success, clearing mining operations in and around water bodies as well as forest reserves in the country. These successes notwithstanding, Operation Halt has received a number of criticisms in its approach in respect of its legality and sustainability. So, on today's episode of the show, we take a look at Operation Halt 2 and ask, what is the operational plan of Operation Halt? Are the various elements of its execution legal? And how do we as a nation sustainably fight this menace of Galamsey? This is our conversation tonight on your show and our show, Candid Voice. And as we always say on Candid Voice, we say it as it is. My name is Benjamin Ofeado, and I welcome you to today's show. We are live on Asasi Radio 99.5 megahertz here in Accra and on 98.5 megahertz in Kumasi Asasi Radio, and in Tamale we are live on 123 FM on 99.7 megahertz. We are live online on www.asasiradio.com, on Facebook on Asasi Radio 99.5, and on YouTube on Asasi TV Official. Today, joining us to have this particular conversation is a private legal practitioner and also a law lecturer at the Gempa Faculty of Law, in the person of lawyer John Dakon. Counsel, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Yes. Also joining us on the show today, and he's connecting with us via Zoom, is the Greater Accra representative of the Friends of Rivers and Water Bodies in the person of Alan Dwomoh Sarpong. Alan, if you can hear me, you're welcome to the show. Hello, Alan. Yes, so once we have Alan on the line, we are going to engage him further. But just before we came into the studio, we received a press release from the Military High Command of the Ghana Armed Forces. And this release is dated the 23rd day of May, that is today, 2021, release number 16. And it's signed by E. Agri Kwashi, Colonel, who's the Director of Public Relations. And the press release says, a high-powered military team led by the Chief of the Defense Staff, Vice Admiral S. Amuama, on Saturday, 22nd May 2021, undertook a confirmatory reconnaissance to some of locations where Operation Halt 2 has so far operated. The reconnaissance team came across signs which indicated that there were still some illegal mining activities going on in some of the areas that had hitherto been cleared by Operation Halt 2. These illegal activities were mostly being done in the night or under the cover of darkness, protected by armed guards. Used cartridges were found at the sites. The Operation Halt 2 patrol that accompanied the team were ordered to destroy logistics found in these areas. The Ghana Armed Forces wishes to once again caution all citizens, especially those living in and around major rivers and their tributaries and forest reserves, that Operation Halt 2 is still in progress. Any equipment found in and around water bodies and forest reserves would be destroyed. And as I said earlier, signed by Colonel E. Agri Kwashi, who is the Director Public Relations of the Ghana Armed Forces. And on the heels of this particular press release, would want to begin the conversation. Lawyer, you have studied within the space of natural resources law. You have taught, you continue to teach. Looking at our history when it comes to the fight against Galamsey, this won't be the first of it. Even in the era of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we had Operation Vanguard, that which happened during his first term. And as I did capture in my introduction, he had indicated that he was even willing to put his presidency on the line in this regard. Now we have Operation Hall 2. In terms of its scope and plan, what really is the plan of the nation dealing with this particular Galamsey menace?
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. And my regards to your listeners across the country. I'm very happy that this subject continues to dominate discussions in the country. Ghanaians all over are very passionate about what is happening in this country. And so they believe that what is going on now is very good and will help this country. Now, what do I think is the scope of this new desire of the government in the fight against Galamsey? I believe that the scope is to end illegal mining. Simplicity is the end of the story. The scope is to stop destruction of our forests. The scope is to stop the destruction of our water bodies. Indeed, the scope is to save our environment from total destruction by Ghanaians and foreigners. And so this renewed fight, I believe that if it is well executed, may be the end of our fight against Galamsey. I mean, you say that even within Nana Addo's government, we've had Operation Vanguard, which seemed to be not so successful. And so the government has had to introduce Operation Halt. And so even within the same administration, we've had two, you can say, engagements to stop Galamsey. And so will this ever end? I believe that with a renewed spirit, with a renewed desire, this probably, and just probably, will be the end of our fight against Galamsey. Now, it can only be so if we have all the political parties joining the government to do it. Because look, let's not kid ourselves. The political parties, they come to government and the desire is to work to win.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the government is taking a particular step, which in his opinion will be helpful for Ghanaians, but the opposition is fighting against it, more than likely the president may be willing to toe that particular line, but his people will tell him, look, what is the sense in towing a particular line which will lead you to opposition, which will bring the opposition into power. And when the opposition comes to power, more than likely, they will destroy whatever you started. And we know when the fight against Galamsey started, in the last elections, and I'm not saying this to be political, there were elements in the NDC, and sadly, a former Minerals Commission boss, was part of that delegation led by Kwaku Boahen, who seemed to suggest that when the NDC government comes to power, the Galamsey will be renewed. They will be given the chance to get into.
So you're saying there are people who seek to make political capital out of this?
Yes. So if we want to stop this Galamsey, I'm saying that apart from the government's own commitment, which is commendable, we need all the political parties to come together to fight this. Because at the end of the day, when our water bodies are completely destroyed, as we see now, both NPP and NDC members in the communities will suffer. Is irrespective of your political affiliation, the suffering that will come as a result of the destruction of the natural resources, will not look at your face to decide whether you're an NPP or NDC. So we need, as a country, to come together. And I think that it's a good. The Minister for Natural Resources started well by trying to bring everybody on board in the discussion, the stakeholder conference that he undertook. I think that right now there seems to be a consensus amongst all the political class, the political parties, to fight against that menace. And that is why I believe that this one will be successful.
Yes, and talk of that dialogue, and I mean, there were members of the Council of State, the president of the national as well as regional houses of chiefs, former ministers of lands and natural resources in the Fourth Republic, all 16 regional ministers, heads of security agencies, the president and the members of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, actors in the mining industry, presidents and members of small-scale miners associations, leadership and members of parliament, reps of various political parties, members of the diplomatic corps, members of academia, members of the media, and representatives of civil society organizations. And looking at the civil society organizations, we are fortunate to have been joined by Dwomoh Sarpong, who is the Greater Accra representative of the Friends of Rivers and Water Bodies. Alan, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great. Alan, so you are a part of the broader civil society grouping that has been involved in this particular stakeholder consultative exercise. As far as you have been involved and the sense that you get, what really is the plan of the government in dealing with this particular menace of Galamsey, and tie that in with what you see on the ground, given that you are very much in touch with the happenings at the various sites, be it the river bodies as well as even the forest reserves?
Okay, thank you. So when it comes to the details of the plan of the government in fighting this, I don't have the details, but for me, where I sit, I believe that as a country, we have environmental laws, and the government must do everything possible to protect and enforce those laws. So basically, I think that is what they are doing. But when it comes to what is actually happening on the ground, I think whether or not you have been on the ground, the blessings of social media has all the videos and the pictures, and the media is doing quite well this time. It is all on front pages, morning show discussions, and so on and so forth. It doesn't really look good. Last night I got some video. I don't know how true it is. Somebody sent it to me that Ankobra was turning around, but we need to keep on fighting. It's a long haul. We don't have to start jubilating yet. There's a long way to go. But what I'm a bit concerned about is the complaints that are coming out of this fight, where people are complaining of getting their legitimate equipment banned and all that. I'm a bit concerned about that because that can distract us. We need to give 100% support, full support to the men and women who are involved in this fight so that they will be able to achieve the desired goals that we've set for ourselves. So basically, we have a long way to go. The water body doesn't look good. The forest is still, and for them to still go to sites and go on the river bodies and still see the champagnes and the excavators there tells you and I that we still have a long way to go. And I mean, if you travel around and the pictures that we keep seeing, the water bodies are still dirty.
From the release by the military high command, it appears that certain places that have been already cleared, I mean, these people are getting back there, and a lot of these operations are being done under the guise of darkness. So they are doing it during the night. From what you gather on the ground, what is it that enables these people to be able to do what they do? Because we are learning here that they do this kind of work protected by armed guards. Is it the case that those communities themselves support the operations of some of these illegal operatives who are engaged in the mining at these places?
I mean, yeah, don't really underestimate this. I mean, we are talking about money and a lot of money, and there are all kinds of people involved. I mean, we've mentioned security operative chiefs, opinion leaders, the locals, and people with a lot of money and power. So, for example, if you burn one excavator, or two or three at site, probably they have 10 hiding somewhere. Champagne, they may have backups. And I mean, these people are well prepared and the actions are well coordinated. They
Mm,
receive intelligence, and so they can dribble even the team out there, and they understand the terrain. So it's not an easy fight. So we are not just going to win it within weeks or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We have to keep on fighting, and we have to deploy more men and use more intelligence. And for me, I have been saying this for several years. If we don't apprehend those who are behind this, those who have the money and the power and the influence to get these things done, and we go on arresting those young people at the side who I always say are victims, then we are not going to solve the problem. These people have made a lot of money. You can ban equipment, you can ban 100, 200, they can still get them in. So we have to go after those people. And when we arrest those people, we just cut their supply. And the people who go out there to mine on their behalf will be discouraged. But if we are not getting those people and we are just going to see abundant equipment on site, which probably they may not even need it, and they will come back again with new equipment.
look,
So we need to be going after the people who are
mm,
behind this thing.
Lawyer John Darko. So the approach, and you heard Alan indicate that there are concerns around even the burning of some of these equipment that are found at these sites operating illegally. There have been concerns around this particular approach, but let's go into the law around mining minerals. What does or what are the legal provisions, or that's the statute or whatever form of legal provision that guides the mining as well as the mineral, how we manage minerals in this country? What are the offenses regime and the punishment or penalties prescribed in that regard?
Okay, all right. Thank you. I think that for the purposes of this discussion, I will look at um, the Minerals and Mine Amendment Act, Act 900, which clearly details some of the punishment for illegal mining, and there are a lot of them. But let me just start with Section 99.3, and then maybe I can do 4 and 5 for the purposes of our discussion.
Okay.
It says that a foreigner who undertakes small-scale mining operations contrary to the provisions of this act commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of no less than 30,000 penalty units and no more than 300,000 penalty.
If you could just adjust your mic so that we can hear you better.
Okay.
Yes.
So I was telling you about the fact that the foreigner, the law provides a foreigner who undertakes a small-scale mining activity, because the law prescribes foreigners from engaging in small-scale mining activities. Those who, if you're a foreigner and want to engage in mining activity, yes, you can do that. You come under the main provisions under Act 703, where you secure a mining lease, and you need to invest a minimum of about $500 million and all. So the small-scale mining industry is actually reserved for Ghanaians. But what we realized, I guess what government realized, was that when the Ghanaians were doing it, they were not using huge equipment, these earth-moving equipment. We realized that foreigners were involved. So the law was passed to punish foreigners who engaged in small-scale mining activities. So a foreigner cannot engage in small-scale mining activities. But what government realized was that Ghanaians will take the concessions. So the concession is the name of a Ghanaian, but they will bring in foreigners as service providers or people who will supply them machinery. And so the law again went on to say that a Ghanaian who employs or engages a foreigner to illegally undertake or participate in small-scale mining commits an offense. So if you're a Ghanaian and you employ a foreigner to engage in small-scale mining activity, that also became an offense, and it's still an offense. Okay? Of course, punishment is prescribed. Okay? Then, on this machinery, the law is that where a person is arrested for an offense under subsection 3 or 4, so when a foreigner comes to work in Ghana, or when Ghanaian
engages a foreigner.
Exactly. And you get these equipments. The law is that any equipment used in or associated with the commission of the offense and any product derived from the commission of the offense shall, regardless of the ownership of the equipment or product, be seized and kept in the custody of the police.
So seized and kept in the custody of police.
And kept in the custody of police. Now, that is the law. And then when a court convicts any person, the court can then order that the machines be given to any of the state organizations or the district assemblies. Now, that, for me, was the best approach, because if you look at these equipment, very expensive equipment, and if you burn it, what we've done is that we've burnt money. And so you can, if you seize it and give it to the district assembly, there are district assemblies in this country who need some of these earth-moving machines to distill gutters, to clear some damaged stuff in their
communities. Yeah.
And so if you do that, then there is good use for them. But we're in this country, and we saw the brouhaha that went on before the election. People were talking about flying excavators. I mean, I think that some of them, I guess, were exaggerated. But for the military, I guess the assumption is that you don't want to be associated with the idea that you seize some equipment and somebody has stolen them, and so we'll go ahead and burn it. I think that it is not the best approach, because it's not what the law provides. We see, as a country, no matter how we want to develop, no matter how fast we want to do our things, we still have to go by the laws. We are a nation of laws and rules. Okay? You cannot punish somebody for a crime, so-called, unless that particular act, or you cannot punish somebody for an act unless that particular act is prescribed in the law and punishment provided therefore. And so we need to understand what the law says and act according to the law.
Lawyer, let's break down what you just said a few minutes ago. So, in respect of arrest, the items are supposed to be confiscated and kept at the police station. So, in the particular case of what is happening right now, where items are being burnt at site, I mean, already you have said that is not what the law says. So that in itself, you are saying, is an illegality.
It's an illegality.
Okay. So first level, even before the item will be sent to, let's say, a district assembly or municipal or metropolitan assembly or another government institution for whatever developmental or whatever purposes, it has a conviction ought to have been secured by the court before.
Yes. So let me just read the law. That's very simple. It makes it clear. 99. The amendment, Act 900. It says that a court which convicts a person for an offense under subsection 2, 3, or 4 shall, in addition to the penalty that it may impose, order the forfeiture of any equipment or product seized under subsection 5 to the state.
To the state.
To the state.
So that's upon conviction.
Upon conviction. You understand? And you see, listen, And we need to understand, as a country of laws, you cannot look at somebody. Somebody may look like a thief, okay? But until the court pronounces that indeed this person stole the item, you cannot say that the person is a thief and so punish him. So yes, and some people who are not lawyers find it difficult to understand that you saw somebody shooting a person, or you saw somebody in an extreme case, let's say raping somebody. You still have to go through the court processes to secure a conviction. But you saw the person shoot him. Why do you have to go through court processes to secure a conviction? You understand? So yes, we saw them engaging in an illegality. These were the equipment. Yes, that is the case. But we still have to go through the court processes. So the person has to come and plead whether he is guilty or not guilty. If he's not guilty, for instance, the person has to show that, yes, he did not commit any of these offenses, and that he is a Ghanaian who is probably who has a license to engage in small-scale mining and was operating within his area, okay, and was operating under that license. Because, and I've said it before, in most cases, what happens is that you have somebody who is given, let's say, a 1 acre plot to engage in small-scale mining. The next day, the person is working on a 2 acre plot. So he's moved from his land to another land. Immediately you move from the concession that was given to you, you are engaging in an illegality. Even though, let's say you have a license which is valid for 5 years. Yes, small-scale mining is supposed to be valid for 5 years. If your license pertains to land which, let's say, Asase Radio is situated, and you move to the American embassy, you are engaging in an illegality. You understand? If your license is for 5 years, which is what it is, and at the expiration of the 5-year period, you continue to engage in small-scale mining, you're engaging in an illegality. Okay. You understand? And I have seen people who have shown, and it's so sad to say, who have shown respecting license as a basis for engaging in small-scale mining. That does not give you the right to mine. And so people are walking around with all kinds of, if I should say, quote-unquote licenses, which are actually not licenses, or which are expired, or they are mining outside the land that was granted to them. And so once the state is able to prove that, listen, you're engaging in small-scale mining industry when your license had expired, or you were engaging license mining at American Embassy when your land was actually Asase FM radio, or you were using a prospecting license to mine. Once the state is able to prove this to the court, you will be convicted, and upon conviction, the equipment that was or were seized will be given to the state.
So I'd want us to go on a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll be looking at, so what does this mean by way of implication for the state if it is the case that we are actually engaged as a state in an illegality? We would also want to look at the various responses that have come from various members of government, the ministers for national security, lands and natural resources, as well as the Minister for Information, in respect of this. And then we are going to look at practically and sustainably how we can deal with this particular matter in light of certain comments that have even come from civil society groupings. You are still here on Asase Radio. The show is Candid Voice. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
I nearly gave up on driving out of frustration. What hadn't I done? Purging, replacing electrical parts, changing my fuel pump, and still, the engine noise in my car won't stop. Then I met this guy who said I should try Goil Fuel. By the way, my name is Thomas, but I did try Goil Super XP Ron 95. Then,
Goil stocks only higher grade fuels, further enriched with XP3 multifunctional enhancer, more efficient, eco-friendly, and at no extra cost. Available at every Goil station. Ajibebia.
Now my car is renewed. Yankonkwa.
Goil Super XP Ron 95 and Diesel XP, higher grade fuels, excellent for modern engines. engines and all vehicles. Goil, good energy. Yeah, yeah, dear.
Yes, you're still here on Candid Voice, and Goil higher grade fuels have been tried, tested, proven, and accepted over the years as most suitable for all engine types, including the latest vehicles with the most modern engines. In addition to these superior qualities, Goil higher grade fuels are further fortified with the XP3 additive multifunctional enhancer, more efficient, eco-friendly, and sold at no extra cost. Goil higher grade fuels come in Goil Super XP Run 95 and Diesel XP, sold in every Goil station and not just selected stations. So go ahead, fill up with Goil higher grade fuels. Ajibebia. Goil, good energy. Goil, yeah, yendim. And we come back to our panel here, and we are discussing Galamsey, and we are looking at the legality of the fight against this particular illegality. And I'm joined in the studio by lawyer John Darko, who is a private legal practitioner and also a law lecturer at the Gimpa Law Faculty. Also joining us via Zoom is the Greater Accra representative of the Friends of Rivers and Water Bodies in the person of Alan Dwomoh Sarpong. So coming to you, Alan, this time round, the leader of the Third World Network, that is Dr. Yao Graham, for instance, has spoken about this particular approach towards the fighting of Galamsey. He indicates that as far back as the beginning of the Fourth Republic and throughout the Fourth Republic, under former president of blessed memory, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, as well as Mr. John Ejikum Kufuor, Professor John Evans Atamels of blessed memory, John Mahama, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we have continually used soldiers. And his suggestion is that this is not sustainable because you are pretty much civilizing these military persons. And he's also spoken to the fact that the burning of some of these things, these equipment in itself, and is an engagement in an illegality which undermines this entire process of dealing with the Galamsey menace. Sitting where you do you think that beyond, there is any other way, given the kind of force and arms that the people who engage in these illegal mining, these kinds of things they use? Is there any better way aside using the soldiers of the Ghana Armed Forces to deal with this?
I believe that the soldiers are the right personnel to undertake this exercise, looking at the terrain and then the kind of people who are involved. The soldiers are the right people to do that. But I believe that over the years, they might not have achieved what the goals that we set for them, because you and I know interference here and there, and a lack of, maybe at the point, political will to be able to back them. And we've had some of the former soldiers who were involved, um, complaining about orders from above and go here, deal with this person, don't deal with that, release this person, and so on and so forth. So the leaders over the years have not really given them the kind of support that we need to give them. Now, the burning of the excavators and other equipment, I believe, is problematic. If we are all looking at it on TV or watching a video of excavator or an equipment being burned, but if you have been to the terrain and you've seen how those places are, in operational sense, I think that, I told somebody yesterday that I want to give them the benefit of the doubt from the minister, from the ministers, from the army commanders and their team. I believe that under the circumstances, um, I don't know what they can do, because, for example, when they get to an excavator and a part has been taken off, it cannot be operated from the site, And how do you even move this heavy equipment from the side when you can't get a flat body vehicle there because of pit and the terrain is so terrible that how do you do this? And when you leave them, they come back and use them. So maybe we have to be looking at the law, especially for me, looking at the direct mining in water bodies, which is unthinkable. There's nowhere in the world where they accept that. So if the law can be amended to mean that anytime anything of that sort or machine is found on the, it should be destroyed and getting rid of, so that they may not be or they will not be breaking any law. But once there's a law, and because of operational challenges and the history, I mean, we've come all this while. At a point, the excavators and equipment were bent, people complained, and they stopped. The next one, no excavator, no equipment was bent, it was seized, taken to wherever they took it. Then a whole lot of brouhaha started. Some of them find themselves back there. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that it may be difficult for them as well, but under the circumstances, what do you do? For example, I mean, every armed robber is supposed to be arrested and arraigned before the court. But if the operational circumstances may not permit the security agency to be able to apprehend the person, sadly, they bring them in body bags in some occasions. So some amount of force in certain situations are required. Otherwise, if they can't bring them or they can't bring the equipment to police station and then proceed to court, and they have to leave them there because they cannot drive them out or operate them out of those places. For example, a big champagne, how do you take it from the water body? And I don't know. So maybe those who are totally against that can come up with maybe ideas on how we will be able to. So I don't think that they may really want to be destroyed them on locations. But what do you do when you can't operate the equipment out of the site and you can't get a flat body in? And so sometimes the terrain may also, maybe one day we have to visit a site and then we can all be able to appreciate the challenges and the difficulties that the people who are involved, and especially for me, I come to the point, why should we come to this point where we have to fight to protect water that we all drink? I
Well,
mean, it's unthinkable. Why should somebody do that? Why didn't they pack the equipment offsite when they were asked to do so when they were leaving?
well, well, we are here, and people would not necessarily do or ordinarily do what is required of them unless there's a certain regime to keep them in check. But coming to you, Lawyer John Darko, trying to resolve the question that Alan is asking, in a situation where there are practical challenges of moving some of these items to the designated place as spoken about by the law, I mean, under what circumstances would one be permitted under the law to get to a point where you destabilize the equipment in such a way that it is not usable?
Well, I mean, he's laid a very important point, Alan, but the point is that, look, if we want to be a nation of laws, it's difficult, but that's what it is. The law is very clear that you seize these equipment and give it to the state. Okay. Now, I'm sure those who want to support the banning of the equipment will say that once it's for the state, then the state will decide what to do with it. So the state may decide to ban it. But that is even after the court, after the conviction and the court order. And from what we have seen so far, we've not heard of any court order, or we've not heard of any conviction. So you see, it is possible that somebody may have his or her equipment bent wrongfully. The person may have all the licenses to operate within that area, and we go and burn the equipment. In that case, what will happen is that the person may sue the case, and we may have to pay the cost of the destruction to this person. And so there are also these areas. But you see, there are no easy answers in any of these situations. But what we all agree is that if you are engaging in any illegality, if it's obvious that you are operating within a particular water body, obviously that is an illegality right there, because nobody can give you license to mine in rivers.
Yeah.
Okay. So once that is seen, yes, the equipment must be seized. And Alan makes a good point that while there may be practical challenges, you cannot easily bring these equipment out of the place.
Can they not be dismantled and then carried out of the place?
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say. It may be a practical challenge, but there has to be a practical solution. You have identified, you see, it's not as if it's just a one-off event. You have identified that in a particular area, there's a lot of illegal mining going on. You have decided to go there and seize equipment. You need to go there with not only military, you have your engineers as well.
Yeah.
And in the military, you have the engineers regiment over there. You know, and it brings us back to the issue of bringing military men, you know, to fight this, because military men are prepared for war and battle. You know, they defend their territorial integrity. The police, what they do is interior within the country, so they are supposed to do that. For me, I believe that we can equip our police to handle this. But of course, since it's a national security matter, you can deploy the military, you know, properly, so-called. And once they are deployed, we need to give them the necessary equipment. So, for me, you cannot tell me that if anybody can send a machine to a particular area, no matter how hard it is to reach that area, a government agency cannot bring it back. We should be able to bring it back. We should be able to have what it takes to bring all these equipment. Because in the same vicinity, in the same district or municipal or metropolitan assemblies where they are operated, these metropolitan assemblies need equipment.
Yeah.
To do one thing or the other. So it will always serve the interest of government if we are able to bring this equipment to the government agency.
Let's look at the issue of subleases.
Yes.
So, Extra Gold Mining Company has been in the news over the week because of certain equipment belonging to them having been allegedly burnt.
Okay.
And there has been a certain association with Kate Jemfua, who is an executive of the ruling MPP, for instance. One of from some of the commentary and from some of the people who were at the site at the time the burning was being done, these are people who may not necessarily be working for Extra Gold Mining Company, but then they are mining within certain spaces. So around the conversation of sublease, what is the legal regime around someone who has been licensed and given a certain lease to mine, subleasing to other persons? What are the requirements in that regard?
Okay, so let me just make it this. Maybe subleasing is not the right term to use, because see, when you are subleasing an interest in the land. When it comes to mining, it's not the land; it is the mineral therein which is, you know, being dealt with. And so we should be looking at the license to mine. So whether the license can be transferred, because it is not the land that you sublease. The land, yes, a landowner can decide to sublet the land. But when it comes to the mineral resource, it belongs to the state, and the state only gives license to mine. And so in Act 703, the provision has been clear that no person, who has license to mine can transfer that interest to anybody without the consent of the minister. That is the general provision. But when it comes to small-scale mining, if I take you to Section 88, under Section 88, it says that a license granted under Section 82, and Section 82 deals with minerals, small-scale mining. And so a license granted under small-scale mining, okay, may be transferred only to a citizen and with the consent of the minister. And so when you look at Section 88, if in this particular case, Extra Gold was given the license to mine, and Extra Gold needed to transfer its license to another company, Extra Gold must go to the minister and seek the consent of the minister. And so the person who is working there right now, okay, should be able to show, because the lawyer must have advised him that, okay, if you are getting this license from the Extra Gold, then ensure that Extra Gold has consent of the minister. And so they will have a copy and say that, look at the consent of the Minister of Minerals and Natural Resources, okay, giving Extra Gold the go-ahead to transfer its license to it. Because, mining is not a joke. And so when the minister grants a mining license to Company A, it is granted to Company A because the minister has done due diligence on Company A and believes that Company A, by its track record, can do right by Ghanaians. So we'll work within the purview of the license, we'll work within the environmental regulations, we'll pay maybe its taxes and everything. And so we have run a due diligence on Company A, and we have granted Company A the license. So Company A, if you want to transfer your interest to Company B, we are not saying you cannot do that entirely, but you need to come and see my consent. And in so doing, the minister will have to look at this new company you want to transfer your interest and maybe ask you why. Why did you come for the license? And maybe in a couple of months or years, you want to transfer that interest. Because you see, it's just a 5-year interest, so why do you want to transfer? So you need to convince the minister that, okay, these are the reasons I want to grant I want to transfer my interest. And that's what it is. So, once the minister gives the consent, then the person can go ahead. So
in the case where a transfer of the license has not been done,
yes,
but anybody is mining within the precinct, or within the particular location where the license has been granted for the mining, any activity that happens there, the company that was given that license will be held responsible, in essence.
Of course. So let's say that on the records of Minerals Commission, this particular area is for Extra Gold mining. There hasn't been any request for a transfer of license. And so the Minerals Commission, the ministry, in their records, will only show that Extra Gold is the concessionaire, or is the one which is supposed to operate in that area. You understand? Now, so if indeed Extra Gold gives anybody the right to go ahead and mine without the consent of the minister, they're engaging in an illegality. You understand?
Yes.
And so you can be held accountable for engaging in an illegality. It's in the law. If you go contrary to any provisions of the law, you face the consequence there.
Coming to you, Alan. Alan, you seem to agree with the use of the military, and we've heard the Minister for, it's actually the Minister for Defense. Earlier on, I did mention Minister for National Security. It's the Minister for Defense who had indicated that the military are the ones being deployed for this. And because a lot of these things are done at night, and at least from the press release that has been issued by the Military High Command, affirming that these things are being done at night, for the security of these soldiers themselves, he cannot assure the safety of whichever persons who are operating around that time. Also, the Minister for Natural Resources, Lands and Natural Resources, has indicated that, well, for anybody to think that this particular approach is sustainable is not what it is, and that the soldiers are being deployed for a specific purpose, and once they are done, they are going to be taken out. From where you sit, and now we are talking solutions, even as we wrap up. What would be your suggestion of what is practically sustainable in dealing with the menace, given that what is even happening right now with Operation Halt, according to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, is not that which is sustainable?
All right. So I believe that for now, the military is needed to clear all those who are there doing illegal activities in the forest and on the water bodies. But going forward, I believe that the protection of the forest and water bodies and sustainable mining must be a key performance indicators for all the district assemblies in areas where mining takes place. So the DC is going to be judged by that. The security head, the police head, the national security, the BNI, all the security personnel, senior ones, they will be held responsible. I believe that, and I've been saying this always, that the district assembly system must be the lead, or the district assembly must lead the fight against protecting our natural environment. Because, I mean, they live in the area, they are there, they understand the terrain. They may probably even know the people who are involved in this. So they have what it takes to be able to sustain the fight. And if we make this, the appointing authority makes this the protection of our water bodies and our environment, key performance indicators for DCEs, and so on and so forth. And then, as I think it was mentioned earlier on, the political parties, especially the ruling government, their officials, regional chairman, constituency, and so on, and they must also support the DCE, and they should support their government, especially when you are in power. You have to support your government because we hear a lot of allegations. So they must be good citizens, support the government that they have brought to power to succeed. And then, as a country, we must also work with other stakeholders, other political parties, because sometimes a government may succeed to a point and leave, and then just another group also comes in and then come and start where we started from and take us back. So the political organizations are also key, and they need to be very responsible, because even if you win power and you don't have water for your people, you will leave the next morning. So it is good for all of us as citizens, as politicians, as chiefs, and ordinary citizens to make sure that we have water to drink. It is very important that we all see it from that point, so that it doesn't become a political football where this one will play it and this one will play it. If you win today and there's no water for the citizens, you will not survive more than a day. You will leave, because the people will demand water from you. So we have to be looking at it from that point. And then, who is watching the watchman? So if the district assembly or the districts are leading the fight to sustain our environment, the national team must also be watching them. And then also, as I've been saying always, we need to look for the people who have done this. I mean, they've made money. They've exported gold illegally. They've stolen our gold, exported, made money, paid no taxes, polluted our water. People have been sick. People have died. Children have been deformed, and they just walk away. And all we do is to destroy their excavators that probably they don't even need. We need to be looking for those people. And we need to be bold about it. Anybody who is part of it must be punished.
Interesting. So you are calling for a punishment regime for all the beneficiaries who have illegally mined our resources and have put our various water bodies and forest reserves and various, lands into jeopardy. Lawyer John Darko, you have the last word on this. Solutions. You heard what the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources said. Minister for Defense has indicated that the military are coming in there, looking at sustainability of this fight so that there isn't an undermine of the kinds of gains that we are making with this particular operation. What would you suggest practically should be done to ensure that we have sustainability of this particular fight?
Yeah, thank you, my brother. Let's face it. This fight, okay, against Galamsey, cannot be won like you win a battle, with an organized army. Okay? When you go to a battle with an organized army, when one party defeats the other, the defeated party understands and surrender. The fight is it's just like fighting an Al-Qaeda or any of these irregular forces.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. We are fighting against irregular forces. It's not an organized army. And so you cannot claim victory until every single person has surrendered. And who are the parties we are fighting against? We are fighting against Ghanaians and foreigners. And so for me, first of all, if we want solutions, we know the kind of people who are engaging in this Galamsey, the foreigners. We know they are the Chinese. We cannot run away from it. And I understand the diplomatic backlash if we decide to overly punish them when, the need arises. I understand that. But we need to be bold. At least the Chinese ambassador has hinted. He's told us that the Chinese people who come here to mine, they don't know where the gold is. It's Ghanaians who take them there. And he said that we are the people who grant them visas to come in here. We know how Ghanaians struggle to secure visas to Europe and America and maybe Australia. And so first, for me, the first solution is to be stringent on which Chinese comes into this country. We cannot bury our heads in the sand and pretend that this is not the issue. Who grants the visas to these Chinese? Let's begin by cutting the inflow of Chinese into the country. There are those who come in genuinely to do good businesses. We live in a common village, as we call it now. Is one big village you all live in, right? And so you cannot prevent the movement of people from one place to the other. Yes. But just as the Americans and the Europeans screen Ghanaians who want to travel there, let's begin to screen these Chinese who come into this country. Because we know that, sadly, they bring their people who are not the best into our country. Donald Trump said it against the Mexicans, and they fought him. But on that basis, he won the election. Let's be bold and ensure that those who come into this country to come and destroy our water bodies, those who the bad nuts are not allowed into the country. That is one. So stop the inflow. And if you give me a second, I can wrap up. I know you want to.
Yes, yeah.
So stop the inflow of Chinese coming into the country. The Ghanaians who are engaging in this illegality, let's find alternative livelihood for them. Nobody can make. Okay, that is why I'm saying that it is not irregular forces you are fighting against. You are fighting against irregular forces. Find alternative livelihood for them. And I know that the mining companies employ a lot of these people. Let's get them to employ them, at least to be security or security officers or cleaners in their companies, the big ones. They prefer that to being in these deplorable conditions. So let's find alternative livelihood for them. Let's cut the inflow of these foreigners. And the last one, and that is the biggest problem. I have taught environmental law, I have taught natural resources. The biggest problem we have is the enforcement of even the little regulations we have. If we begin to enforce the law to the letter, we begin to see results.
So we implement the laws to the letter. That is the recommendation from lawyer John Darko. And also, Alan is suggesting that, indeed, we need to look at enforcing punishment, that's the laws, once again, of the people who have benefited from this illicit trade and have put the entire nation in jeopardy. And this is how we wrap up our conversation today on Candid Voice. The focus has been on Galamsey, the legality of the fight against this particular illegality. And having joined us to have this conversation have been Alan Dwomoh Sarpong, who is the Greater Accra representative of the Friends of Rivers and Water Bodies, as well as lawyer John Dark, who is a private legal practitioner and also a lecturer at the Gimpa Faculty of Law, who has extensive experience teaching both environmental and natural resources law. From all the submissions that have come, it doesn't look like we do not really know who are causing the problem. Neither is it that we do not know what to do to nip this particular problem in the bud. What has eluded us for some time has been the political will. And it appears now we have it. So how do we harness it in the right ways to have a sustainable fix to this particular problem? James chapter 4 verse 17 says, "He who knows the right thing and does not do it, to that person it is sin." To all of us in this country, leadership as well as citizenry, we are all responsible to keep this country in the right state, at least, if for nothing at all, to keep it in the same state we came to meet it, so that we can transfer it to the generations that are coming after us. And it's on this note that we bring down the curtains on the show. This evening, my name is Benjamin Ofeado, and I've been your regular host. Stay tuned here to Asase Radio. We have a number of good shows on this particular network for you. Just after the show, we'll be bringing you Music Mix. And early tomorrow morning, the Breakfast Show team, the Asase Breakfast Show team, will be coming on air to bring you the most relevant breakfast in the city. Of course, the breakfast is going to be preceded by The Word by Reverend Ekoa. Stay here on Asase Radio 99.5. We are the voice of our land. Have a good night.